Hello, my name is Audrey. I am Dr. Haugen, but please call me Audrey. I'm originally from Chicago. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, right near O'Hare Airport, and then taught at Maine West High School in Des Plaines, Illinois, which is 5 minutes from the airport there. Started out as an English teacher, then became an English department chair, an assistant principal, made a leap up to the district office to be an assistant superintendent, but there were no kids in district office, so when the principalship opened, I went to Maine West and was principal there for 13 years, and I'm starting my third year as principal here at Redmond High School. And I see John is a graduate of Redmond High School. Yes, John?
No, Mike. It's Mike.
Mike, sorry, Mike in the orange shirt. Yep. And Alan, Redmond High School graduates, right? Yep. And John and Michelle as parents of Olivia, who's an awesome recent grad, and Daniel, who's a junior. So really neat to see that connection here in Kiwanis. As a principal in Des Plaines, I was also a Kiwanian, so I'm familiar with it's really neat to see that you do very similar things. Yeah, we used to do the happy, the dollar for the happy moments, etc. So very fun. I'm starting I'm aging myself by telling you how many years in education, but this school year will be 38 years in education for me. Wow. And that doesn't mean when I was in kindergarten. That's from when I started teaching 38 years ago. So I started teaching when I was 10. Wink, 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 wink. So I wanted to start with a big fat thank you to all of you for the scholarships that you donated to our kids this past year and in the previous years. This year especially was critical because our kids had a super tough year and a half. May 13th, a year ago, we were told we would be home for a week, and then that turned into more than a year. And we were on 100% online learning, and our teachers did not have online teaching experience, so they had to jump into that, get into a new learning platform and teach our kids from home. And then when the fall came around, we thought we'd be back, and of course we were told no, you couldn't. So in February, we came back to school on something called a hybrid model. And it was a unique model, which was really neat to Redmond High School, and our administrative team are the ones who created it, so we were super proud of that. We were able to get every single kid back into the building, either on a morning schedule or an afternoon schedule, so we had every student who wanted to be back in school, and we kept our online learning platform as well. So then in April 22nd, or April 19th, we were able to come back full-time in person. Of course, our kids still wore the masks, our teachers wore the masks, and we removed desks from classrooms so that we could be 6 feet apart and keep the social distancing. We put paw prints down the hallway because we're the Panthers, and kids stayed to the right in the hallways. We limited bathroom usage to 3 kids at a time so that they could stay 6 feet apart. And then we got new guidance a couple months in, just at the beginning, or toward the end of May, or mid-May, that we could go 3 feet apart. So we were able to get more kids into the classrooms, which was good. And now the Oregon Department of Education just announced that it'll be an advisory role that they will play now, not a guideline role. So we had to follow the state mandates and the Oregon Department of Ed mandates. Now we are on advisory, so now we'll follow the district guidelines in terms of will we have to stay 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart, will we have to wear masks, etc. In the building now, if you were to walk in, it would seem pretty normal. We're not wearing masks because kids are not there with us. If kids are in the building with us, then we put our masks on. But our students are starting to get vaccinated. We had 2 vaccine clinics at our school. A lot of kids took advantage of that, and so we expect that hopefully in the fall, keep your fingers crossed, we will not be wearing masks. That was one of the hardest things to do as a principal. My conversations with kids was mostly pull up your mask, put your mask on. You couldn't even see what kids look like, so at graduation, the week of graduation, we were told we could take masks off. So the Wednesday before graduation, which was on Friday, they lifted the mandates at the fairgrounds, and we were able to have graduation and see smiling faces and 200 kids walk across the stage, happy to be there, and super excited about that. We want to send the message from Redmond High School that we were the first high school in Redmond We're super proud of that. The other school across the way, they're great. We're fiercely competitive with them, especially in sports. But we are starting, and they're starting to pay attention to us. We're sneaking up on them test score-wise. Academically, our motto next year is that we're Panther Fierce, and we are going to academically be fiercely competitive, not only athletically, but academically. We already are. We have kids who are getting full ride scholarships to colleges. Olivia, for example, is on her way, and she's super successful. We had a student get a $395,000 scholarship this year to go, full ride scholarship, to go to the school of her choice, and she's going to be a surgeon. So she'll leave there debt-free. She's our valedictorian. So just super proud of our kids. Any chance I get to talk about Redmond High School, I will do it. So if you have other avenues where I can promote our school, I will do it. If our kids can help you, our Key Club is super connected. We have a new sponsor starting this school year who's excited to begin. So anything we can do for you, please let us know, because you've given back to us so much. So we're super thankful for that and happy to be here. So I'm open to questions. Yes?
Audrey, so I helped Jill Cummings, who's going to be one of your new school board, helped her with her campaign a bit, and learned some things about the school that I hadn't known. And one of those is, and partly because of COVID, we have almost 400 kiddos not engaged in school right now. How are we going to re-engage our kids, especially those who have kind of dropped off over the last year?
Right. 400 kids across the whole district.
Yes,
so
yes.
I want to be
Yes.
sure that you know
Yes,
that's not 400 kids at Redmond High School. We only had 115 students remain online out of 958 students, which we thought was awesome. Next year, coming back in the fall, we only have 14 students who would like to stay online. That's because we're making phone calls. We're saying, listen, you were not successful at home. You need to be re-engaged. Our counselors made phone calls. I made phone calls. Our teachers made phone calls. And if students were not successful in that online format at home by themselves or at home with little support, we're saying you need to come back to school. That's the approach we're taking. Of you're not successful, get back in here. The personal approach of calling the kids and calling the parents, I think, was critical in saying you need to come on back. The small amount of students, the 18 who are staying online, had great success. They have full-time jobs, for example. They're helping support their families, and they're earning all A's and B's. So in that situation, we're okay with that. And they can still be in our clubs and activities and sports, and some of them are. So that blend is just fine. But the calling, connecting, and making sure that those who are not successful get back in person, because we know that that's the engagement that our kids need. Yeah. Yes.
Internships. So through Redmond Economic Development, we have that program. How does it work at the school side?
We have we share an internship coordinator. His name is John Charles, and he works through an internship program through Ben through it's called youthconnect.com. So if you were to look that up, he finds our kids apply through youthconnect.com, and he matches them up with internships to work anywhere in the Bend, Redmond area. But that's his.
And who tells the kids to go look there?
Oh, we do.
You do.
We do. We tell them we have a career and counseling center, so our students are able to go there. If they're looking for even volunteer work or paid work, they get connected with him by going online. They learn how to do their resume and interviews. They get set up through him, and he then gets them into those internship opportunities. And they have, I think it's over 1,800 different job placements that they have available right now. We just need kids to go and do them. Yep. It was hard during the pandemic, of course, but now it seems to be opening up again.
Can you talk a little bit about the credit recovery program?
Sure.
I think there was a number of kids in the class versus who actually were able to graduate, and how those kids will get caught back up.
Right. If the Oregon Department of Ed required all schools to put in place a credit recovery program, so any student who lost credits during a pandemic would not be hurt grade point average-wise. We have to provide opportunities for them to make up those credits. So we created an online system where students can get those credits. They take a proficiency test first, If they can pass out of that proficiency test, they get their credits. It's like getting a final exam at the beginning of a course, and if you can pass that comprehensive final exam, why take the whole course? So that's what got put in place for many of our students. There was also something called proficiency credits. So if during their pandemic you failed, let's say you failed English 3, but when you came back you took English 4 and passed it, you also got credit for English 3. So a lot of students gain their credits back simply by showing proficiency in a higher level course. Highly controversial because kids got credit for not passing the first time, but then passing a more rigorous course. But we got our kids across the stage and into the programs and classes or workforce that they needed to be in. Is that what you meant? Yeah. Yes.
So I'm hesitant to bring my kid back to school because I think Governor Brown's going to shut you guys down again this next year, and she has the right to all the way through the end of the year.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. And then I'm going to be SOL trying to figure things out. So I've pretty much written off this whole school year for not even bringing my kid back, and then probably going to rejoin down the road because once that happens, there'll be no place to take my kid. Like, they fill up immediately. They're so full anyway. Our childcare's, I mean...
Yeah. It's a
you
tough
guys all have to
situation
know
for
this
parents.
is coming. She's going to do it to you again.
Possibly. What we think is going to happen, it'll be local control this time. This is what we're hoping for. Because in Redmond High School, for example, not one case was transmitted student to student. Not one. Not one student came to school with COVID and gave it to someone else. We quarantined because of proximity. So if a family said, someone in my family has COVID and Susie was at home with that grandpa who had COVID and Susie came to school, we quarantined the people who were within 6 feet of that person for more than 15 minutes. Not one case was transmitted. The only case in Redmond School District where there was a transmission amongst kids, and we're not even sure it was COVID because the little kids did not get tested, was in kindergarten. One kindergarten class, we had quite a few kids get sick in that class. Again, they didn't test them for COVID, but they shut that classroom down for the 10 days. So we have a lot of data to show it's not being spread in our schools. We're comfortable being there, so we're hoping that data that we can provide back to Governor Brown will not cause a shutdown.
The data didn't show that restaurants and gyms were the problem, and they got closed down for a long time with no help.
Yes,
so.
yeah. So it is, we're hoping that doesn't happen, especially because kids are excited about being back.
Yeah.
We have the requirement at Redmond High School that kids be involved in at least 2 clubs, activities, or sports. And if clubs, activities, and sports are shut down and kids are not engaged, that's when we have a disconnect. That's when kids are not wanting to be in school and not doing their work. So getting involved and being in the school is critical. One of the neatest things that happened was when we did get to come back, we got to have every sports season for 6 weeks. So everything got shifted. We ended up having basketball and wrestling. It just ended yesterday, actually. Basketball and wrestling now in the summer months versus in the winter time, but everything just got shifted back. Every student got to have a 6-week season. So we had football for 6 weeks. We had games. We had basketball. We had wrestling. And our golf team won state. So we had incredible successes even in those shortened seasons and did a great job there. So. Yes?
Whatever brought you here to Redmond from beautiful Midwest?
Great question. I told the story at the table earlier. So 4 years ago, my brother-in-law, my husband's brother and his wife live here in Redmond. And 4 years ago, we came out for a family reunion. And we spent time at the coast, we spent time in Redmond, we spent time in Bend, all in this area. And we said, if we ever move out of Chicago, this is where we would move. Well, my I have 3 girls, and 2 moved to Florida. They went to school, University of West Florida in Pensacola, and 1 moved here to California. And so we said, okay, time to go. Let's get out of Chicago. We're good. Let's go to Oregon. We're closest to our daughter, who is married and so I'm a grandma, who has little Liam. And so they were about a 6.5 hour drive to them, so not too far from here. Now that we are here, let me go back a second. So 2 years ago, my brother-in-law sent me a little posting from the Bend Bulletin that there was a position open at Redmond High School for a principal. So I Googled it, looked into it, I sent my resume in and just said, let's just see what happens. And they called, and I did an online interview, and then they asked me to come in for an in-person interview. So I came in, and they put me through the ringer. It was a crazy full day from like 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night, all kinds of interview process, and then they offered me the job. And then I said, well, let's go, let's do this. Let's just go on our adventure, because we supported our girls on all of their adventures. Let's pack up and go. So here we are. I wasn't ready to stop working, so I'm starting my 3rd year at Redmond High School and absolutely loving it. I was in a suburban school. Maine West was about 2,600 kids, so this is much smaller, and it's a more relaxed pace here, much more relaxed, and we haven't looked back. We're super happy here.
One thought, not to be the chauvinist pig that I am, but how many female principals have we had at Redmond High School?
There was one other.
There was one other.
She was there for 2 years.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And they've had quite a turnover in principals. And so one of my goals was not to come in and stay for a year or two. They need some stability and leadership, and the experience that I had in a public school much larger, I think it was appealing to them, and they knew I care for kids, and I'm going to know kids by name, and I'm going to be there for them. So it's hard getting to know kids by name when they're online and have nothing to do with me, but we're getting back there. So, yep. Thanks. Yes?
What kind of relationship do you have with COCC between the high school and the community college?
Great question. So we have a lot of classes that are articulated with COCC, which means when you're in a high school class taking certain courses that COC also offers, for example, COC's introductory English class, English 102, our students are getting dual credit at the same time with COCC. We have 8 classes right now. We're looking to get 15 credit hours so that a student earns their associate's degree at COCC when they graduate. That's my goal. So we're getting there. Most of our classes that are the upper level classes, AP classes, almost all of those are articulated with an COCC for that dual credit. So we're working toward that. The other thing we're doing, and this is interesting in terms of there's a lot of controversy out there about kids having lost all this learning in the last year and a half. They haven't lost a year and a half of learning. They've been learning from home. Our teachers have been working extremely hard. They've lost some. So our approach at Redmond High School, and this was even pre-pandemic, but we're going to accelerate our learning. We're not going to remediate, we're going to accelerate. So our freshmen are coming in, and we are changing our freshman curriculum in the English realm to the pre-AP curriculum for all students. So our goal is to get every student the opportunity to be in an AP class or a college level class by the time they're a junior or a senior. Whether they want to go to college or not, that more challenging curriculum is going to make them a better human being. So starting this next school year, all of our freshmen are going into that honors curriculum without them knowing it. Don't tell them. And they're just going to do it. Our expectations are going to be here so that they rise up and be here. So that's our goal.
You should raise the bar.
Absolutely.
Our bar's too low.
I agree. And that's why we're going to be fiercely academic, fiercely competitive academically. Yes?
I don't have a question, just to share. My husband and I don't have children. We likely won't. And so we're so far removed from the entire education conversation. But as members of this community, rooted in this community, committed and staying, we value you. And I just coming from I know having kids, it's so important to plug into our education system, but every time something comes across our ballot for the education system, we're all in. Because even though we don't have children, we know that it's the future of our local culture and community and society, and then expanding from there. And just as soon as I heard who was sharing, my heart was like heavy, knowing what's been going on the last year and going, oh my God, this woman is resilient and fierce. And then you mentioned that word, and I'm just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a tough. It was very tough to communicate with parents just via email. parents didn't know me, right? I came in, and then in March of my very first year, here we are, everything's online. So parents don't know me, and I'm changing things every week. By the way, graduation's on. By the way, it's off. By the way, we're inside. By the way, we're outside. By the way, we're back inside. All of these changes that were happening from the governor on down, it was a difficult year. But the staff at Redmond High School and the kids, that resiliency was certainly there. And that learning on the fly, I had never done a Zoom meeting before. You probably hadn't either, right? And you're all like, what button do we press? You're muted. What are you doing? We figured it out, and our kids are fine, and we'll be happy to be back in there. And what I'm finding about Redmond is people, even if you go away to school, a lot of people, they come back here. They have roots here in Redmond. So you're right about the future. Our kids are that future because they're coming back here, living here, and growing up as adults here, so we need to make sure they're prepared and make sure Redmond's okay. So, yes?
Both of my kids went to Redmond High School.
Excellent.
And went on to college, succeeded, they're wonderful. But I'm also concerned about what vocational programs you have
Absolutely.
and you might be developing. I mean, there's
Thank you.
aerospace industry here, there's new solar things going on. Where are you headed with vocational training?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes,
thank you. So Redmond, the difference between Redmond High School and Ridgeview High School is only their elective classes, not their college-bound classes. So both schools are college-bound. So at Ridgeview High School, they have 3 different major elective programs: culinary, TV broadcasting, and a CNA nursing program. At Redmond High School, we have manufacturing and engineering, we have woodworking, welding, and ag classes. So ours are more of the hands-on electronics type classes versus what is going on at Ridgeview. We're both college-bound, so I spoke mostly about going out to college, etc. But our students, every single one of our vocational classes in our career and technical education department, CTE, all of those courses have pathways. If you stay on a pathway from your sophomore through your senior year, you end up with industry quality certification. So for example, our manufacturing students get something called SoftWorks certification. That's what the industry standard is for you to get a job in the industry after having done an apprenticeship and working in that industry. So for example, a student last year got right out of school because he's got that SoftWorks software program engineering certification, was offered a job from Nike to go work directly out of high school at Nike for a $75,000 a year job. He said, no, my mom wants me to go to college. But my mom would like you to pay for college and I'll work for you at the same time. Guess what he's doing?
Aww.
He's working for Nike and they're paying for him to go to college. Brilliant, right? So we have all kinds of kids. So we have that in welding, manufacturing, business and entrepreneurship, computer science, where they could walk out of our building and go and get a job anywhere if they were on that pathway. And that's what we're pushing for the kids who don't necessarily want to go to college or who also want to go to college and get a job at the same time. We had a student this year on a Zoom meeting, a computer science student. She was a junior, but she ended up graduating a full year early, so she just graduated a couple weeks ago. JoJo, she was on this computer call and just talking to other industry partners about what she was working on in her computer science class. 7 people reached out to her and asked to hire her. After one Zoom call, after she explained what she was working on. She said no, she's going to college, but she's going to get offers for them to pay for college and for her to work there. So I'm so glad you asked that question because that's super exciting and one of the unique things about Redmond High School. That's our goal. You leave there and you're able to work. You're able to go to college. You're able to be successful with anything you want to do after high school. Yes?
Is there an aggressive summer school program this year to help students catch up?
Yes, we have 2 things going on. We have a credit recovery summer program. So if you fell behind in credits, you can sign up. It's free, and if students will do that, we'll get them in. It's an online program, so they can do it at our school or they can do it from home. And then we also have, there's federal grant money for elective expansion opportunities. So there's millions of dollars to be able to do this. And so we have, we have over 120 course offerings that are a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks long of fun classes that give you a half a credit, either at Ridgeview High School or at Redmond High School. You can go to either one. Classes like soccer and statistics. So if you stand, what they're going to explore is where do you stand on the field and shoot your ball, what are the statistics that you'll get it in the goal at a right-hand angle or whatever. And you can do that for a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. There's a cooking class. There's so many. If you look on our website, if you go to Redmond High School, just Google us and click on summer school opportunities, it's phenomenal. It's super fun classes outside of the classroom environment, but still doing some fun things.
We got time for one more.
Okay.
Just a comment too, is that at one point in time, Redmond School District had as its motto, a community is known by the schools that it keeps. I think that was such a beautiful phrase, and it's certainly so true. It's been expressed by you today.
Yes.
I think it's awesome from our standpoint that we have an individual that understands what Kiwanis is about and can recognize the value of service groups like ours as an integrated part of your system.
Absolutely.
So we applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our kids can help, and you can help us, so that's a connection we need to have. So thank you. And by the way, one of my daughters, who is here in Oregon, teaches at that other school, at Ridgeview. So she teaches English. We don't let her in our house with her Ravenwear on. She's got a Knights and Panther gear, but I do support one individual over there. So. Well, thank you for letting me come and talk.
Thank you, Audrey, for the important work that you do and what you do back to our community. We